In a world where the sun's heat is burning those who venture outside during the day, mysterious and dangerous beings that look and act human come to our home looking for shelter. It is our job to distinguish them from real humans and survive. Which begs the question, what makes a human in the first place? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Shadow the Axolotl, and did you know the seasons don't fear the Reaper, nor do the wind, the sun, or the rain? Welcome to today's long-awaited No, Not a Human video. A little past the hype, I know, but this will be worth your while, trust me. By the end of this video, not only you will have a complete understanding of what is the story of the game, but we'll also uncover some of its greatest mysteries, such as what are the visitors, what is their purpose, why the pale visitor kills you if you're alone inside, what death means in this game, and what is this crawling monster. Before we dive into the lore, let me walk you through how this video will work so you know what to expect going forward. The final release of No, Not a Human is huge, and not just that, it's spectacular in my opinion, and also the story is profoundly confusing, in a good way, mind you. I think the story is everything I wish it would be and more. But that also means you can't have a clear picture of everything, even if you somehow fit every puzzle piece available. Even after reading every single line of text in this game and getting every ending, I was still left with so many questions. This video took a while to make simply because I wanted to sort my thoughts into a cohesive explanation for you guys, and that in itself took me a while. But since you're watching this, it means I finally have enough knowledge and theories I want to make a video about, and I shall share with everyone today. This is how it's going to work. There are 56 guests in the game, and by guests I mean anyone who knocks at our door, human or not. Let's save the term guests for everyone who knocks, and use visitors for the murderous creatures we shouldn't let inside. So, there are 56 guests in the full game, as well as a few minor characters. Which means if we were to explore all of them, as well as explain the lore of what happens in the story, this would take forever. Luckily for us, the guests come in different categories, which I shall reveal now, and these will make our life easier. There are story-locked characters whose the night of appearance and their species is set, meaning they will be always appear at a specific point in the game, and their species, human or visitor, will always be the same no matter how many times you play the game. There are also species-locked characters who can show up at our door at any point, or they even might not show up at all. But if they do show up, they are going to be of a fixed species, either visitor or human. And finally, there are randomized characters whose night of appearance and species are not defined and change between playthroughs. Amongst those randomized characters, there are a few who I think are of significance to the lore and are worth being explored. So in this video, we are going to navigate the days of the game while highlighting the story-locked characters, species-locked ones, and important randomized characters of the game. I think that this way, by the end of the video, not only you have a full picture of what is the story of the game, but you'll also have enough knowledge to make your own conclusions and make theories of your own. Just one quick note before we begin. The devs dropped an update the day I was going to post this video, so I'll quickly go through the things they added at the end of it, including a whole new ending. So, let's explore what is the true story of No, I'm Not a Human. The game starts with a cutscene. We have the neighbor, a character we will meet very shortly, talking with what's likely his cousin. The cutscene depicts the peaceful days before the beginning of the end. We shall come back to it a few times through the video, as there are secrets hidden here which we are going to uncover. But for now, let's stay simple, fast forward it a bit and go to the beginning of the game. We hear a knocking at our door. For those who played the previous versions of the game, this is nothing new, so let me get through this quickly. This is our friendly neighbor. He came to tell us the news about a new threat, visitors, creatures that look just like humans, but will kill us if we let them in. He also tells us about the sun, which activity has increased in the past few days. He tells us to continue the conversation in the morning, and so we let him in our house. We can check our windows to verify our surroundings, which will be the game's way to set the mood for the rest of the story. For now, everything is peaceful and quiet, but won't stay that way for long. Every day in the mornings we check the news, and today we are informed of a large burst of energy coming from the sun. The temperature has reached critical levels and it's no longer safe to leave the house during the day. If we check the TV again, we see an interesting reference to Swan Lake, a ballet that was broadcasted in the Soviet Union when they needed to air something other than bad news. It became a symbol of the end of the Soviet era, and here it becomes a haunting sign of what is to come. We check with our neighbor and he tells us that we need to let people inside. He doesn't explain why, other than being alone is dangerous, but luckily for us the radio broadcast will inform us about a pale man walking during the nighttime. If he comes to visit us, we must tell him that we have guests in our house. He's the reason why we shouldn't be alone. It also tells us that people are burning in the sun, so yeah, no going out during the day. The neighbor then will gift us a bunch of beer and tell us to look for signs of visitors in our guests in order to stay safe. Drinking the beer makes us tired, so we go to sleep. We check our windows during the night time and things still look peaceful. There are even kids playing right outside. There's someone knocking at our door, so let's check who it is. The first to greet us tonight is the little girl. She's the neighbor's daughter who has come to take him home. Nothing much to say about it now, but it won't be the last time we will hear from her. The next guest at our door is the tall man. He was kicked from a bar and needs a place to stay. The protagonist doesn't know this yet, but he's human. In fact, he's a story-locked character that always shows up tonight. In this dramatized playthrough, we will be letting those characters in. So let's welcome Tall Guy in and explore more of him later. The same goes to our next guest, Cashier Girl. She tells us visitors came to her house and kicked her out, which is very strange considering that she's one herself. More on that later. She's also a story-locked character, so let's let her in. If you're playing the game yourself, there will be another character knocking at our door tonight, but they're going to be a randomized one, so let's skip that and go to sleep. During the news broadcast, we are informed of the visitors the neighbor told us about. It reveals to us that perfect white teeth is a sign someone is a visitor. If we check the TV again, we get an ad for home delivery, which can give us useful items to survive the game. The radio would just give a silly broadcast about a program that let you send pictures of yourself, and they will tell you if you're a visitor or not. So it's time we check in with our residents. Here's how this is going to work. The characters have progressing storylines that advance as we check with them daily, which means we only get someone's full story after a couple of days. But for reasons we will know later on, there is a chance they might not be around for long enough for us to complete their stories. So for this video, I will be going through their entire character arc the day we check with them. This will also make things simpler to keep track of, as we will be dealing with only one character at the time. So let's begin with Tall Man. Unfortunately, his dialogue is not very useful to learn about the lore of the game, but he's a guaranteed human who visits us in Night 1, which makes him a very useful NPC. However, despite not revealing anything crazy for the lore, he's a good character to set the mood of the story, questioning the sanity of the people, the meaning of death. He criticizes the paranoia and how people can be worse than visitors. In the game files, he's labeled as SNE, a reference to the 20th century Russian poet Sergei Yesenin. I wish I was more familiar with his works to make any connections, but I will leave it to the Russian poetry fans in the comments to enlighten us. We can check for signs of visitors on him, but we already know he's a human, so let's not waste our time. Fun fact, I always let this guy in, but he always ends up dead no matter how many times I play this game. I think it's just a coincidence, but I feel sorry for the guy. Next, let's check with Cashier Girl. As I have already told you, she's a visitor, but interestingly enough, she doesn't seem to be aware of this fact. Previously, I speculated that she was turning into a visitor, but for reasons will be revealed later on this video, I think she's already one and is just unaware of it. Why do I say that? Because you don't turn into a visitor slowly. It happens in an instant. Sorry for the teasing, we don't have the evidence to back up this claim yet. But we'll get there eventually, so stay tuned. Well, as for Cashier Girl, she has some interesting dialogues I feel are important to highlight. The visitors! They're coming for us! Can't you hear it? Death is calling. Visitor, human, what's the difference? We are all the same when we are dead. So why torture ourselves by waiting? Let them come! They want what's best for us. Let the visitors come. We are ones with the humans, reflections, mirrors, one and the same. Together we shall welcome death. The end is nigh. The sun heralds the final approach. We'll meet soon. Very soon. Death is calling. We are all the same when we're dead. They want what's best for us. Together we shall welcome death. The sun heralds the final approach. These lines are going to become very relevant soon, as I'll bring them back again when arguing for a couple of theories, especially what the sun heralds the final approach means. What we'll have to take from now on is that the sun, the visitors, and death are connected. Humans and visitors aren't so different from one another, and that, apparently, they want what's best for us. In the first window, we see the neighbor and his daughter playing peacefully outside, but this calming scene suddenly turns into horror when, right in the next window, we see bodies of teenagers laying on the ground. The same kids who were playing outside yesterday are now dead, and just as we look at the final window, we see him, the pale visitor, the perpetrator, gazing at us. Now, we know for certain that we are not safe, but guests are at our door, so let's check on them. The first appearance of the night is the teacher. Now, just as a refresh to everyone, this is not a single playthrough, and the first time I played the game, this NPC didn't appear to me at all. She is one of the characters with random appearances but locked species. The reason why I'm introducing this character as if she appeared in the story at the specific moment is for storytelling purposes and to build up the lore of the game in a manner that everyone can follow. Try to imagine this as an what-if scenario that will make the events of the game more clear. Alright? Okay, so the teacher comes to our door saying that she tried to take care of kids who lost their parents when the visitors' outbreak began. Some lost their parents to FEMA, some parents got killed, and some kids were abandoned for showing signs of being visitors. But one day, the kindergarten she was housing the kids in was set on fire by paranoid humans, afraid of visitors. She had nowhere left to go, and so she came to our house looking for shelter. She is a human, and she's going to always be one in every playthrough. Let's let her in and learn more about her story during the day. The second guest at the door is this old lady. Let's call her Babushka, which means grandma in Russian. She comes to our door saying that fate brought her here, and that if we let her in, she will have some stories to share with us. She's another randomized appearance with fixed species, and this species is a visitor, but we are letting her in still. Alright, we don't have any more important left, so let's head back to our bed. When we wake up, the game will inform us that one of our residents was killed. This is because we have at least 2 visitors inside our house, Cashier Girl and Babushka. I wondered before why visitors only kill when they're in groups, but I think this is just gameplay convenience by now. Still, Tall Guy is dead again. RIP. The morning news will tell us about an organization trying to fix the problem of visitors, and are the ones laying out the signs out to people. They are FEMA and they can be identified by their yellow hazmat suits. With this announcement, we also get another sign of visitors, which is dirty fingernails. Since visitors crawl up from the underground, it makes sense their nails are dirty. The radio broadcast will give us the number for a special psychic services that promise to exorcise the evil spirit of visitor inside us. We can call the number, sure, but as far as the lore goes, this is a nothing burger. It tells us to not drink kombucha, which is the drink we can use to save the game, as it lets the mycelium take control of our body. This can lead to theories about the nature of visitors, but I'll be dealing with that in depth later on, so no point talking about it now. Anyways, let's check with our new residents. First, we talk with Babushka. As promised, she does tells us stories, though in a rather poetic manner. We learn that she was married to an alcoholic and she used to sit on a bench watching people go about their day and learn their stories. But she can't do that anymore, right? Her face also melts as she goes on about her stories. For now, there's nothing specifically lore related from her dialogue, but we are going to talk about her and visitors as a whole when we discuss about their origins. Well, we can't have two visitors at our house, so let's put Granny to sleep. Right, screamers. This is what these things are called. Those evil faces show up sometimes when we kill a visitor. More on them later. Next is the teacher. She's one of the saddest characters with one of the most tragic fates in the game. I'll just let her final moments play so I don't have to say it out loud. In the end, she was not able to live with the guilt of not being able to protect those poor kids. You know, there's a thought I can't seem to shake. What if their parents never felt anything for them to begin with? Never loved them at all? I just hope I was able to give them at least a little love. In the first window, we see FEMA members roaming around the neighbor's house. Their intentions are unclear at this point. In the second window, we can see more FEMA members. This time, they are disposing of the bodies of the teenagers. In the third window, we can see an armed squad looking for the pale visitor. Now, it's time to check the door. The pale man himself. He asks us the infamous question, are we alone? We luckily are not, but if we lie and say we are, well, let's just say he will take our word for it. He looks disappointed that he can hear someone whisper inside and leaves us for now. There are still a few days left before we can even begin to speculate about his origins. So let's just be grateful that we are spared for now. The second guest at our door is a man with his mouth wired shut. He mumbles incomprehensively, but he looks in distress, so we decide to let him in. He's another character with a randomized appearance, but fixed species. I will let you guys guess what it is from now on and reveal later. And then we meet with the Prophet. This is a character especially relevant to the lore and has appeared in every iteration of the game. He asks us to read his fortune by choosing a page on his book. We can only choose one per playthrough, but let me make things easy for you and show all of the answers. Beginning, the dead soon shall speak, but none will heed their words. Middle, me, I am I. You are home. Ending, it was so long ago, perhaps it was a dream. Maybe you, I, and the fish only exist in the memory of a person who is long gone. Maybe no one really exists, and it's only raining outside. We can then ask him if he believes in this divination, and he answers that we should take it as a form of advice, a call to attention to something. So I took his advice, and let me break down everything I could find. The first answer, the dead soon shall speak, is quite direct. It is supposed to be the beginning, and at the beginning of things, the dead will speak. They will say something important, but people won't take it seriously. In this case, the dead are obviously the visitors. So what is the advice? Well, why don't we refer back to Cashier Girl? After all, she's the very first visitor to show up in the game. Death is calling. We are the same when we are dead. They want what's best for us. Together we shall welcome death. The sun heralds the final approach. These are the visitors' words. The second answer, me, I am I, you were home, is a line from the movie Mother. I did my homework this time and watched all of it to make this video, and I'll try to explain to everyone at home watching this without any major spoilers what it means. In this movie, strange people come uninvited to a peaceful home. While the meaning of the movie is completely, and I mean genuinely, different from the message of No Not a Human, I think the inspiration from the game of having weird people come to your house comes from the movie, since it was referenced. The line, "You were home," doesn't mean you were at home, but rather you were the home. Despite that, I don't think this line connects with anything specific in the game, other than guests appearing at our door, I mean. I could overthink this a little more, but I don't think we would get anywhere, so let's move on to the final one. Finally, the third answer. It was so long ago, perhaps it was a dream. Maybe you and I and the fish only exist in the memory of a person who's long gone. Maybe no one really exists and it's only raining outside. This comes from the movie Angel's Egg, and dissecting it in detail is worth a video of its own. But without any major spoilers, the central idea of this quote is that things that happened so long ago become old memories, and those old memories are almost like dreams. We can't tell if they really happened or not. When we meet someone for the last time, their existence to us is like a dream. The idea of no one really existing is the idea that we are also forgotten, and we also become this dreamlike memory to others. The fish and the rain are particular to the context of the movie, so I won't be explaining it because it would be a big spoiler. Now, to the context of No Not a Human, this being the last page means that this is what will happen after the end of the game. The sun and the visitors will become distant memories, and people will wonder if it was all just a dream. I mean, I'm sure there's many of you who can relate with the sentiment regarding to the pandemic. Well, this is it for the prophecies for now. The prophet also advises us to let the cat in. He doesn't give any more clues than that, but if we see a cat, we know what to do. No one else is coming tonight, so let's sleep. The news will tell us that FEMA is now taking potential visitors to quarantine camps for study, as well as a new visitor sign, Blood Red Eyes. If we check the radio, it will be broadcasting a program called I Want to Believe, which promises to uncover government conspiracies. Today, they are supposed to discuss the truth of visitors with a specialist doctor, but someone stole all their documents and they did not show up for the day. This is a thread that will take a few days to close. For now, there's not much we can do with this info. So, the only guest we let in last night was the foreigner. We know he's a foreigner despite not being able to understand what he says, because he hands us a paper to call someone. This person is a foreigner embassy, friend of our foreigner guest, that he was supposed to meet. He tells us that all the flights were cancelled and there's not much we can do for his friend. We may not understand what the foreigner is saying in-game, but he's speaking in a simple cipher known as Atbash, which substitutes a letter with its opposite. For example, A becomes Z, B becomes Y, C becomes X, so on and so forth. The dialogue between the protagonist and the foreigner is just them trying to understand each other with no success, but we learned that someone stitched his mouth shut because he spoke in a different language. Probably a FEMA member, if you ask me. And by the end of his dialogue, he learns that the trains are still working and that he's going to leave our house. I don't know if that was just me, but he didn't leave the house. In any case, time to reveal the species of this guy, which is 100% human. So, let's head back to bed and wait for the night. When we look through the first window, we see the neighbor's house in flames. Our protagonist wonders if someone set it ablaze on purpose. In the second window, the pale man stares at us menacingly with a severed head on his hand. And in the third window, we see the armed squad sent to hunt the pale man. The severed head belonged to one of them, which means the pale visitor killed them all. The first to knock at our door is a FEMA agent. They came here to take one person from our house for testing in order to learn more about visitors. Suffice to say, we are never seeing the person they took ever again. The second one to come to our house is the conspiracy theorist. He is the same guy who was broadcasting the program I Want to Believe in the radio earlier, and he's one of the characters that show up in the intro cutscene. He says he has important information to share about the visitors and secrets to expose about FEMA. He will be relevant for the story, so we let him in. The third to knock at our door is the neighbor's daughter. She is in panic as her house was burned and her dad was killed. She tells us that visitors did it. We let her in, of course. The fourth guest is this weirdly shaped ballerina. But most importantly, she's holding a cat. Our protagonist has suspicions that she may not be human. So, what do we do? Do we let a visitor in because she has the cat the prophet told us about? Or do we prioritize our safety and tell her to leave? In this video, I'm letting her in. No one else is coming tonight, so we head back to bed. The morning news will inform us about the intensification of the quarantine measures of FEMA. People are not allowed to leave their cities anymore. Additionally, we learn of a new sign, hairless armpits. We go checking the radio and... Oh look, the cat! He's such an ugly little fur ball. We can pet him and even pick him up. Look, look. I love him. His name in the game files is Naperdish, which I think means to fart or farty in Russian. Anyways, I will leave my son alone for now. With his appearance, we can also see the entrance to the basement under our carpet. We can look around it, but there's nothing relevant here for now, so let's head back up. The radio introduces us to a thing called phone roulette, which lets us talk with strangers on the phone. We could call them, but there's nothing major for the lore. We do learn a little bit about our protagonist's troubled relationship with his father, but I'm saving discussions involving him for later. So we let 3 people in yesterday, so it's going to be a busy day. Let's begin with the ballerina, shall we? She speaks in this chaotic manner, and that makes hard to get what she's saying. But there are a few important things to learn from her dialogue. First, she was sent by someone, but wasn't told what to do next. If we keep her around for a while, we can ask her why she didn't kill us, and she will ask us back why we didn't kill her. She compares us with an unnamed him, which I have to assume is the prophet. She says that an unnamed she will come, and that she, the ballerina, is certain of it. Who is this unnamed she? Well, at this point of the game, we can only guess, but do you remember what Cashier Girl said? Together we shall welcome death. The sun heralds the final approach. We'll meet soon, very soon. We can guess then that the ballerina is talking about death here, with capital D. And since she was sent here, it means visitors are servants of death. If we become hostile to her, this is what happens. Next, I say we check on the little girl. She's lamenting her father's death and suffering from grief. I'm going to reiterate a theory I did in my previous video. I think those who killed her family were not visitors, but humans. She uses the word visitors here, but it's a semantics trick. The reason why I think humans burned her house and not visitors is because of 2 pieces of information. First, we have the FEMA agent telling us that visitors rarely move in groups, maybe never. And second, the little girl says that they, in plural, came to her house and started talking. Also, the act of burning houses seems like a trend with the humans of the story, and something that visitors don't really do. So there's that. The neighbor probably refused to collaborate with FEMA, and that's why he got shot. His house was burned to get rid of the evidence. There's more to the girl's dialogue. She gives us a phone number to call her friend, but we quickly learn that such friend was killed by her parents for showing signs of being a visitor. Yeah, this game is dark like that sometimes, and we are even halfway through. She says something else very interesting as well. They hit Daddy, but then he got up. I saw that. He was there. He was moving around when I ran away, which means he's coming for me soon. Maybe he had something to do first? I bet he went to beat up those bad people. He should be here soon. Pin this for later. We'll bring it back when talking about one of the endings. That was all for the girl. Let's meet with the conspiracy theorist and hear what he has to say. We learned that he worked for a research institute and that he had access to their discoveries. He shares one theory that visitors aren't real and that this is all a plan to prune the population because overpopulation? There's the theory that FEMA agents are all visitors, and that's why they wear hazmat suits, so they can't be checked for signs. And then there's his final theory, that visitors are bring parasites, and if you want to be protected from becoming one, we need to wear earplugs. No, a lot of stuff, ain't it? You're probably watching this waiting for me to review what I think about all of this. And well, I shall do that now. So, what he's saying is true or not? Let's go through each of his claims. Visitors aren't real and it's a government scheme to reduce the population. First, no. It's pretty clear that FEMA is losing control over the visitor scheme, and later events of the game will make clear of this. So I say this is just a bunch of crap. Are FEMA agents all visitors? Also not true. We have at least 2 instances of human FEMA members coming up in the next days. What about visitors being brain parasites? This one is a favorite of many, and you will understand why soon. But let's leave another pin here and bring it up later. So I never told you guys, but what is the species of the conspiracy theorist? Believe it or not, he can appear as both human and visitor. Those were all the new guests for today. Let's head back and wait for the night. We look through the first window and see the ruins of the neighbor's house. An aurora borealis forms above the house, and we have the haunting feeling that death is coming to our house soon. In the second window, we see a skull on top of a pole, a small gift the pale visitor left for us. In the third window, we see FEMA officials inspecting the zone of the recent massacre. They weren't expecting one visitor to take care of an armed squad like that. Our first guest tonight is another FEMA agent. He comes to take another guest for testing with no intentions of letting them come back. We are distrustful of FEMA enough at this point, but we haven't much choice other than let them take one of our residents. We also receive a FEMA notice, which we can give to any of our residents, and in a future FEMA inspection, they will be prioritized. It's a good way to get rid of a resident we suspect being a visitor without dirtying our hands directly. Next, it is very sneaky. He comes right after a FEMA agent to take one of our residents. He asks the infamous question, but luckily we still have residents in our house. He departs not before saying dogs rule the world and only dogs will survive here. Another infamous line. Is he talking about visitors? Is their plan to fully take over humanity? Either way, we are safe for now. The prophet shows up again, this time not looking so good. He's glad to see that the cat is with us. He says that a powerful entity awaits the cat's approach, and that it's thanks to she that he can see far, meaning that this deity gave him his powers. He also gives us another divination. Something terrible is coming to meet us. We are not the cause, but we will feel its touch all the same. It will be mentioned in the radio. If we ask him for more, he replies saying he already said too much and offers us an advice. Do not check anyone for 2 days. That's all. If we wish to meet him again, we must not check for signs of visitors for 2 days. There are 2 more guests for tonight. First, a widowed woman carrying the corpse of her husband on her back. She is exhausted and on the verge of collapsing. We let her in. Second, a man wearing a hazmat suit. He claims to not be a FEMA, that he used to work on a factory of fridges, and that he found the suit on a corpse. Here's the thing though, we can't have both of them in our house at the same time. If one is inside, the other will refuse to be let in. But we need both of those characters' backgrounds to make sense of their stories. So we'll be exploring both of their dialogues in the morning as if they're both in the house, even though that's not possible in the game. The news begin with wildfires spreading across the country due to the increased heat. A new sign has been announced, and it is Aura Film Photography. Apparently, if someone has a dark spot in their photos, it's a sign they are visitors. I'll be honest with you all, when playing the game for the first time, I always felt this was unreliable. Like, sure, some characters have pretty obvious signs of being visitor in their pictures, but sometimes it's not so obvious. Like, Tall Guy has a pretty dark aura despite being a human. And there's another character who hasn't showed up yet that the picture is the exact same as another character, despite one being a visitor and another being human. Anyways, visitors have dark auras or something. But my guess is that this has to do more with the person rather than being a visitor. For example, we have tall guy Zara looking pretty dark, meanwhile the ballerina is just radiating. Well, enough with the speculation, let's move on. Hold on, let me just pet my son first, 1 second. Okay, radio. It's a broadcast coming from one of the FEMA quarantine zones. It is reporting that a huge explosion has happened at 3 a.m. Mass civilian casualties and many officers down. To deal with the bodies, the burn team was dispatched. The city is now cordoned and waiting for reinforcements. This is most likely what the Prophet was talking about earlier. Something terrible has come, and it indeed was mentioned in the radio. Although we don't know for certain what it is for now. Okay, we have 2 new residents. Well, sort of, but anyways, let's begin with the widowed woman. Her story is that one day her husband got sick and the hospital sent him to one of FEMA's quarantine zones. When she went to check on him, they told her he was dead. She asked for the body, but they wouldn't give her, so she put on a lab coat and snuck into the morgue, where she found her husband's body. In her eyes, they killed him. By the end of her dialogue, she decides to leave her house, even though there's nowhere to go. She's a character whose night of debut is randomized, but she's always going to be human. Now, the man he has met. He begins with a story of working in a factory of fridges, but we don't trust him and demand him to show his pockets. That's when we learn he has a bona fide FEMA ID. When we press him to confess, he tells us that he used to work at FEMA, but was fired. The reason being, one day he picked a guy showing visitor signs, but he got worse and died there. His wife came and demanded the body, but since they wouldn't give her, she camped outside the base. He caved in and gave her the body. FEMA found out about the incident and fired everyone involved. He totally regrets doing this and losing his job, though. So this character and the widowed woman are connected. There are other instances of stories crossing each other like this, but that's just one I decided to include because both characters are always going to be human. Yeah, speaking of which, the former FEMA guy is very interesting. He shows a bunch of signs of being a visitor, including the picture, but he is always a human. Remember when I said that you don't slowly become a visitor, you suddenly turn into one? There's more evidence for that coming up, but this goes to show that even being exposed to visitors for so long won't make you one. He tells us that the longer you work around visitors, the stranger your aura gets. But even then, he's still human. Anyways, his dialogue is very good in exposing the hypocrisies of FEMA and how quickly they became a threat worse than the visitors. We don't have anything else to do for today, so let's wait for the night. In the first window, we see a woman carrying her wounded husband. She's running from gunfire. Obviously, this is not the same widowed woman we let in, nor it's the neighbor's wife. In the second window, we see a path littered with bodies of those who tried to escape. The responsible was a FEMA officer. In the third window, we see many people in the streets looking for shelter, but no one's letting them in. And through the peephole, we see... I will let this play slowly so you can read the dialogue for yourself, but in short, this old man here came to tell us about a message he received from the Mycelian. Apparently, the Mushroom Festival is about to begin, and we must stop it no matter what. A great mushroom up shall rise, and scatter its spores far and wide, but its shadow shall spread and swallow the sun, and not a single place will be spared from the fun. But this mushroom shall not rise alone, for it's a festival, it is known. Then he gives us a page from the Book of Smiles detailing what we need to do to stop the festival, and leaves. If you are confused, don't worry, there is no way we can make sense of any of this right now. Things will become much clearer later, but for now we have to do what the Book of Smiles says. The Mushroom Grandpa is the only one coming tonight, so we head back to our bedroom and sleep. There's nothing much in the morning news. More FEMA headlines and no new visitor signs. If we check the TV again, we have a program discussing the true origin of the visitors, and it says that FEMA has concluded that they are the result of an unknown biological agent. Some people in the theory community do believe that this is the case, but I disagree. I'll be addressing this theory later, so don't worry. I think the reason why they're sharing this information is to give the people a sort of sense of control. Like Fema has control over the situation, you know. Who knows? In our bedroom, there is the page of the Book of Smiles. Today the world was built new, and in the basement the mushroom grew. It towered high, and time is nigh, to eat it whole if one would try. We'll be checking the basement in a second. Let's just check the radio first. We get a very quick broadcast of someone saying Fema is shooting anyone trying to leave. Things are getting out of control real quick. Alright, let's check the basement. Sure enough, a mushroom that wasn't there before suddenly shows up. We don't eat it immediately, but put it inside the fridge instead. We can check the fridge and eat it, setting us one step closer to the mushroom land. By the way, since we don't have any new residents today, I think this is a good opportunity to talk about our protagonist. Let's go through what we know about him before doing any speculation. From his interactions with the neighbor, we learned that he's a loner that likes to keep his distance from people. He had a rough upbringing, as indicated by the fact that this crocodile toy was his only toy as a kid, and he wasn't in good terms with his dad, wishing he was dead a few times. He was married once, but his wife left him, and yet he still has pictures of her looming around the house, like a ghost memory that haunts his home. And not just her, this is a pretty big house after all, especially for just one person. The truth is that the house is a family heirloom, and that he inherited after his family passed away. It's not hard confirmed, but it's heavily implied that he's the only one left, and the house is a graveyard full of memories of the deceased. From the way he tells how his grandmother crammed the cabins full of dishes he never uses, to the boxes laying around full of things belonging to other people, including a box that his father told him to open once he's gone, but the protagonist never did. Even if he hated his dad back when he was alive, now that he's gone, he's not so sure. There's pictures of his ex-wife and the cat that we can assume belong to him. He is living amongst the memories of people who are gone, passing his days idly and waiting for his turn. There's a poster on the wall that we go through every night when we are going to check for new guests. Loneliness and isolation. This poster depicts a real place, a very small inhabited island in the coast of Iceland. I think it's pronounced Elodie, but sorry Icelandic speakers if I'm getting this wrong, which I probably am. There's a lot of mysticism surrounding this house, like some claims of it being a doomsday bunker. But the truth is that the house is just one of many in the same archipelago. People who hunt for puffins use those houses as settlements, and the one in Elodie is another one of them. There are historical records of a small family living in that place a couple hundred years ago, but that's the extent of it. Still, it's very visually striking and evocative, right? A lone, comfy house in an isolated island with a gorgeous view. It's the ultimate introvert's paradise. One you don't need to worry about strangers knocking at your door. And it's no wonder our secluded protagonist wishes to live in a place like that. The poster is probably the number one mark the protagonist left in the house, a proof of his own stay there, a distant dream of his ideal place. Anyway, there's a big question we need to answer, and that is the protagonist a visitor? Well, we can check for signs of visitor by inspecting ourselves in the mirror, but remember what the prophet said, no investigations for a while. I'll be nice this time and tell you this. He is not a visitor. But the proof of that claim will have to wait for a while. For now, let's head to back and wait for the night. In the first window, we see many Victs talking among each other near the remains of the neighbor's house. They plan on taking shelter there. On the second window, we see an armed man with an insane look on his face. He wears a necklace with torn out teeth, and with your eyes it might be his trophies. On the third window, on a pole hangs a man with a sign that reads, "You took everything from me." The first guest of the night is a man asking if we saw a purple-haired girl with a poncho walking around here. He is looking for his daughter, Fema is after him, and he wants to stay on our house until they leave the perimeters so he can resume his search for her. Before we decide to let him in or not, he gives us an interesting line. He knows exactly where the visitors came from. How can we refuse a guy like that, right? So we let him in. And when we do, he says we both are going to survive this because we are immortal. Okay, more on that tomorrow. The second guest is a man who blinded himself. According to him, he saw something unspeakable, and the sight was so frightening he removed his own eyes in horror. We obviously want to know more about what he's talking about, so we let him in. The third guest is the firefighter guy. He got caught in the sun while fighting forest fires. The smoke prevented him from being completely burned alive, but as we can see, it was still pretty rough on him. With nowhere to go and knowing he's not going to last for too long, he came to our house. He was a big part of the demo/previous version of the game, and we know he's a human. We are going to let him in and learn more about his story tomorrow. For now, let's head back to bed and sleep. The news start as usual. Apparently, one of the quarantine zones was attacked by an unarmed individual. It is likely talking about the attack that was broadcast in the radio in day 6. The news continue as usual, so... Whoa, hold on. Silence is the harbinger of death, a sinister quiet that drains the soul. But worse than the emptiness is the ringing, a distant funeral knell growing ever louder. The bells toll for us all, filling our ears with endless din. Filthy thoughts caught in webs of wax, an infernal nest where visitors thrive, tangled deep in sticky sustenance. Cerumen inundans, cerumen inundans, cerumen inundans. Okay, and it goes back to normal. If we check the TV again, it will talk about the quarantine zone attack again. Multiple theories have been sparked of who could it be. Some blame the lone shooter we have seen in our window yesterday. Some blame an armed group in hooded clothing. Due to the lockdown measures, corpse disposal has been suspended and residents are advised to cremate the bodies. Right. There's a lot we need to talk about, but first let's check on the radio. The broadcast says, "Those weren't the ones who attacked the quarantine zone. I saw it. I saw what was there. That it wasn't human." Frick, where do I even begin? Get comfortable in your seats because today's day is going to be a long one. With the morning news, we have now the option to check for new signs of visitors, which are the ears. Right, do you guys remember the conspiracy theorist? If there's one thing you remember, let it be this. There is only one truth. The visitors are brain parasites. Very, very strong claim, especially with the mysterious TV broadcast. Oof. Let's reread what was said, and I'll try to break it down to the best of my ability. Silence is the harbinger of death, a sinister quiet that drains the soul. At hindsight, I thought the silence was supposed to represent depression, or be depression-esque. The feelings of hopelessness, of apathy, of fatigue, and anhedonia. But I investigated a more literal Russian translation of the text, and I also asked for a Russian friend to submit his own translation, and I came with a different conclusion. A more literal translation of the original Russian text is, "Silence is a sign of death, a terrifyingly devastating silence." There's no mention of the soul in the original Russian, and it's not the quiet or the silence that is terrifying. What is truly terrifying is how devastating the silence is. Despite the way it's worded here, in retrospect of everything that is to come in the rest of the game, and also the rest of the text, I think the silence here is meant to represent something more gentle, like surrendering, serenity, and detachment. It is a sign of death because you're no longer concerned about life and what happens to it. So with this interpretation in mind, let's move on. But worse than emptiness is the ringing. A distant funeral knell growing ever louder. The bells toll for us all, filling our ears with endless din. Filthy thoughts caught in webs of wax. Again, this can be very confusing, so we are resorting to the original Russian again. But there's one thing scarier than silence. It's a bell. The morning bells ringing. Something grows in the ears from the bells. Only wax remains. Dirty thoughts. So the idea is that what's scarier than the silence is the ringing of funeral bells, and from that ringing, wax is formed in the ears. The ringing and the wax are clearly allegorical objects here, meaning they represent both a metaphor for an abstract concept and a real object. The real objects we already know, the ringing and wax. So what do those represent? Well, the ringing and the silence are in juxtaposition. So having established what the silence represents, we can conclude that the ringing represents its opposite. Rumination, regrets, attachment, the fear of missing out. Let's read the rest of the transmission. An infernal nest where visitors thrive, tangled deep in sticky sustenance. Cerumen inundans, cerumen inundans, cerumen inundans. Let's take a look at the Russian translation once again. The guests live by it. The guests get tangled in a web of thoughts. The bells are louder for them. More wax. So, pretty big revelation. The visitors live in the wax formed in the ears, and the greater the ringing, let's call it rumination, the more it attracts visitors. So, this is the moment you have been waiting for. This is the moment where I will say if the conspiracy theorist was right all along or not. Am I, a humble axolotl, really going to go against one of the most well-established theories that so many people faithfully believe in? Am I really going to anger a lot of the no another human theory community with my take? And the answer is no. Psych, I will. You can be damn sure I will. Well, sort of. There is one character that hasn't showed up with a big piece of dialogue separating the visitors from the bugs, and I'm going to reveal it now. I don't like doing this, but too many people will get furious at me if I drop "yes, you are all wrong" bombshell and refuse to elaborate. So guys, meet Big Mama. She's a random appearance, always visitor character. We'll explore more of her later, but for now, all we need to know is the one dialogue for when we check her ears.
At night, I hear the scratching, like something's crawling around underneath us. Oh, that nabbit! Grab the thing! Kill it! Me? Run? I got nowhere to run, darling. Go catch that damn roach. I hate them critters. Damn thing riddle right into my ear. And what about you, darling? Never had a bug crawl out from where the sun don't shine? My ears are the healthiest part of me left. Just hope that damn roach didn't lay no darn eggs in my brain.
What do you guys think of my voice acting? Can I make it to the big leagues? Anyway, if the visitors are brain parasites, don't make sense for Big Mama to talk about them like that. We should be expecting her to act as if she is the bug, and not like it's an invader that lives inside her ear that she is annoyed by. But perhaps we got it all wrong. Maybe the visitors are the bugs, and the undead are something else. It's a funny thought, which does make a lot of sense, but for the sake of clarity, let's not go with that. Visitors are visitors, and bugs are bugs. But what about what the text says? The guests live by it. The guests get tangled in a web of thoughts. If the bugs are not visitors, then what are they? Great thing you asked, because to know that, we need to know what the visitors truly are. And I know you're gonna get angry at me, because I've been doing this since the beginning of the video. But we will have to wait, because not all the info has been presented yet. Stick until night's down, okay? But don't skip the video, you will miss some important context. Trust me, this is not me trying to get watch time, because I wrote the script in a way that requires you to watch until night's down. Yeah, sorry, trust me, everything will make sense on night 10, I promise. Okay, let's move on. With that out of the way, let's check on our residents. First, the immortal man. His true identity is actually Jacob, and he's one of the characters from Trioska's No Not a Human Studio upcoming game called Lost in the Roots. The demo of that game is available to play if you want to check it out. I did play it and try to learn as much as I could before making this video, so I'll share with you what I know and try to make sense of things. First, Lost in the Roots revolve around a strange forest that has strange monsters coming out of it. Fema exists in that universe as well, which means the universe of Lost in the Roots and No Not a Human are connected. Maybe, I'm not saying for sure. I mean, Jacob is No Not a Human, but anyways, it's hard to say without the full game being released, but apparently the events of Lost in the Roots took place 2 years prior to the events of No Not a Human. Well, according to Jacob. He also claims that visitors are the same type of monsters coming from the forest, and that it's all Fema's fault, and that they are evil, and etc. So does that mean that we need the full release of Lost in the Roots to make sense of the lore of No Not a Human? I don't think so, no. It's hard to say without the full release, but I think you can get everything you need from No Not a Human just from No Not a Human, even if its universe is connected with another game. Some people do believe that what we are playing is just a minor story in a major Trioska's universe, and there is the entity of the forest in war with other entities, and yeah, I can't really disprove much of that because the game's not out, but I think we are getting ahead of ourselves. Let's try to learn as much as we can from the current game before trying to make theories connecting it to a game that has even came out yet. One interesting thing about Jacob is that he always shows up as a visitor, even though he is supposedly a human in Lost in the Roots. Why is that? My best shot is that he is dead. Could be that he's going to die in the full release of Lost in the Roots, or that he's from a timeline where he dies there. Anyway, what's up with his thing about being immortal? Well, maybe this is a fourth wall breaking game protagonist thing, where even when we die, we reload the save and start anew, or we start a new game, and we never truly die. That's my best guess to this nonsense. Alright, we already spent too much time on Jacob. Wishlist Lost in the Roots on Steam, and the demo is available and free to play. This video is not actually sponsored. Let's move on. The firefighter guy is not really someone meant to explore the lore of the story, but set the tone for it. Through his dialogue, we learn about the dehumanization happening with the Cataclysm, how employees are being treated unfairly, and how corporations only care about their gains, even at times like these. He has kids at home, but he doesn't want them to see him like this. He knows his time is coming, so he asks for a last cigarette before puffing out in smoke himself. He's one of my favorite characters of the game, and he always appears at the same night, and he's always a human. But I already gave him enough screen time in my previous video, and this video is getting pretty long, so let's move on. Blind Man is a very interesting character. He claims he has seen an unnamed thing which he only refers to by it. He has since been having nightmares with it, but at least won't have to look at it ever again. His dialogue serves to describe it as something like horrors beyond our comprehension. The way it chills but doesn't eat, how it craves your gaze and you can't stop yourself from looking at it, how when it touches you, you can feel it under your skin. He is haunted by nightmares night after night until he can't take it anymore and decides to, yeah. We still don't know what that it is, but we get a few useful tips. It feeds on sorrow, on grief, on pain, and fear. It eats charred bodies, and it is attracted by them. It is also the same creature that attacked the quarantine zone a few days ago. We can infer this from the radio broadcast message, but will become even more apparent later on. It is also the terrible thing coming our way that the prophet warned us about. If it is attracted by charred bodies, the fact that Fema is burning the deceased and more people are doing the same means that it will only grow stronger. Oh, I almost forgot to mention, there is a weird apple in the corner of our house now. This is also part of the instructions of the Book of Smiles. Let's eat and wait for the night. In the first window, we see that a group evicted by FEMA is taking refuge in the ruins of the neighbor's house. In the second window, we see a pack of wild dogs on the streets, as well as another Aurora Borealis floating above them. In the third window, we see people from quarantine zones being reallocated into the houses. And our first guest is, once again, a FEMA agent. He requires more people as test subjects. This time, he's taking 2 of our residents. We can protest, but it's ultimately useless. We part our ways and wait for the next person. The second guest of the night is the cult leader. He says that he feels death on our house. It has taken a liking to it. He is the leader of a new cult, worshippers of death. He says death hath come. She wishes only to soothe humanity, to free us from our chaos, bitterness, and bedlam. Essentially, he says that we must take in 3 cultists inside our home and keep them safe. The leader will come to take them in a few days because they have a ritual to complete. And if we don't cooperate, he threatens to burn our house down, so we don't have much choice. The third guest is the Vigilante. He is an extremely dangerous man that has been hunting visitors with his rifle. Supposedly, that is. The truth is that this guy will shoot anyone that displays a sign of being a visitor. Completely paranoid and out of control, we must keep our guard up while interacting with him. He asks if we have seen any threat. We have a few options to choose from, but it doesn't change the outcome, so we can pick anything. There is no one else coming tonight, so let's head back and sleep. The morning news informs us that FEMA is housing evacuated residents in buildings on the outskirts of the city. There is also a new sign for being visitors shared today, bleeding gums. If we check the TV again, we see a report of the cult we just interacted with yesterday. They have been labeled as criminals for opposing FEMA. We can see there is a clock in our room now. This is the last instruction from the Book of Smiles. We set it to 12 o'clock, like the book says, and guarantee your ticket to the Mushroom Land. The radio broadcasts a message from a group of evicted residents taking rescue in the neighbor's house. They're running low on food and will starve if not helped. They also call our protagonist Hermit, which is a fitting name. Now, today we only have the cultist trio to talk with. Their dialogue revolves around death and the worship of her. But I separated a few lines I found interesting for us to analyze. If we ask them why do they worship death, they say, because death is the embodiment of mercy. We all fear her, but are our fears justified? Consider it well. Our world is no paradise, but a purgatory that torment us. And the question burns, why? So much fear, pain, and suffering. Do we not deserve peace? Death is a paradise we cannot comprehend. Religion attempts to simplify the image of heaven to soothe the woes of the people. But is life ever so simple? The same goes for death. You cannot hope to understand her until you have felt her touch. Okay, so death, at least according to the cult, is a merciful deity that grants rest to humanity. It's important we keep their interpretation of death in mind. If we ask another cultist the same question, please, kind homeowner, I hope you do not wish to speak ill of death. She despises blasphemers who label her as unjust and punishes them most harshly. Her nature terrifies me, but our mentor says death may be the kindest of all gods. She does not bring famine, plague, or war. She simply grants rest, and we need to meet her. Okay, so despite death being kind, she punishes blasphemers who speak ill of her. This is interesting because I think that's what it is. We don't got much on what it is supposed to be, but I believe it takes the form of the vengeful aspect of death to punish the sinners. That's why it attacked a FEMA quarantine camp. If we ask where they are heading, to the land of the outsiders. Human life isn't eternal. We are merely guests on this earth. We came once, and lo, we shall leave. The outsiders must take this land next, settle here. Their arrival is not random, summoned by the same call that draws us away. Death summoned them here. This is huge. This basically reveals to us more about the nature of visitors and what is their purpose. Death summoned the visitors, and their purpose is to take over the world once we humans are gone. And this also aligns with what Cashier Girl said. They want what's best for us. Let the visitors come. According to Death, we are supposed to accept the visitors and surrender the world for them, while we go to this land of the outsiders, whatever that is. There is another dialogue saying that our house reeks of death like any other, but we already knew death, so we are glossing it over. If we ask them why they are so eager to meet death, they say, "This journey isn't our choice. It is the will of death herself. She called us. She yearns for us in her domain." Our mentor says that's why the sun burns so fiercely now, trying to drive us from the surface. Death offers silence, peace, and unity. Her lands are where we all shall reunite. We mourn the dead in vain, forgetting we'll meet them again someday. Okay, so now we have more information about the sun. According to Cashier Girl, the sun heralds the final approach. This was changed from the sun heralds death's approach from the previous versions of the game. I think the reason why is because Cashier Girl shows up so early in the game, and we only learn death is a deity later on. This is also a good opportunity to talk about another theory I saw, that the sun is a different entity that is opposing death or something. I don't know where it came from, really, but I pretty much disagree. The sun and death are connected, and now we know why. The land of death is the underground, and the sun's heat is an attempt to drive us closer to her domain. I can't say if the sun itself is a deity or if it's just part of the prophecy, but in any case, the sun and death clearly do not oppose each other. And finally, one last piece of dialogue to recapitulate everything we know so far. What makes you think the visitors were summoned by death? Because death makes no distinction. Human, beast, outsider. Death is the same for everyone and everything, and all are equal before her. She has waited for a precise moment, and now the time is almost upon us. So we must prepare for the ritual. Alright, let's head back and wait for the night. In the first window, we see the vigilante holding a group of survivors at gunpoint. We know nothing good will come out of this. In the second window, we see a FEMA officer standing near a bunch of dead dogs. In the third window, we see more FEMA members looking at the man hanged on the lamppost. The first guest of the night is the Mushroom Gramps. He seems pleased we did what the Book of Smiles told us, and that we might have a chance of stopping the Mushroom Festival. He says he will come back in time for us, that we still have work to do in order to stop the festival. He leaves with an important clue, that mushrooms aren't always what they seem. The second guest is the Pale Visitor. He says that change is haunting us. He asks us the infamous question, which we are safe once again because we have plenty of humans in our house with the cultists here. He says that we shouldn't think he leads the pack, that there are far greater things out there, and that he simply follows orders. The third guest is the Prophet, looking really rough this time. He says he is feeling worse. His divination is getting weaker, and he ponders if it is because of all the destruction. I theorize all the paranoia and FEMA shenanigans is interfering with the arrival of death, and that's why the Prophet feels like that. At this point, we can already conclude safely that he is an agent of death, which means he is likely a visitor. We have one big evidence to support that, in fact. Remember the intro cutscene? In the beach, we see a stranded man, and he shares the same clothing with the Prophet. In that same cutscene, we see the ballerina leaving a dark closet. These are no accident. Those are the visitors rising from death and receiving instructions from death herself. The fact that the ballerina is coming out of a dark closet gives tragic implications of how she died. But in any case, we know what is the deal with the Prophet now. He brings attention to our basement. He says there's something hiding underneath the soil. This is our clue to investigate it. The fourth guest is the Gravedigger. He tells us that while he was working, a hand rose from the ground. He saw a visitor rise from the grave with his own eyes. That's when he ran and came to our door. We are letting him in. And the final guest of the night is the Huntsman. He says he's not from here, but he needs shelter like anyone else. He has some relevant dialogue for the lore, so we let him in. Alright, time to sleep. The morning news will say that things are slowly stabilizing, but there's now a problem of packs of dogs roaming the streets. What, are we in Romania or something? Anyway, there's a new sign which is irritated skin. If we check the TV again, we learn that equatorial regions are in a terrible situation because of the heat, which establishes that the cataclysm is on a global scale. That wasn't so clear before, in my opinion. The radio will broadcast a message that goes so quickly we may lose it if we don't tune in fast enough. Luckily, with the power of video editing, we don't have this issue. It is an emergency broadcast saying that FEMA is trying to hide everything that is happening in the city, that it's not safe and you must run while you can, while also avoiding FEMA patrols because they're going to kill you. We let 2 guests in yesterday, so let's start with the Gravedigger. As someone who has been around for death for so long, his perspective is really interesting. In fact, I believe he holds the truth to what the visitors are. The last piece we need to complete the puzzle. He tells us about a certain grave he filled. He was digging it as usual, but the grave was empty. This terrified him. He wonders if his grave will be empty too, that he might already be a visitor. This is interesting because he is a randomized character. He can show up both as a human or as a visitor. But what I want to emphasize is his dialogue if we ask him what he thinks is the origin of the visitors. You ever notice the way they look so damn familiar? Like, they don't look like a person, but like a memory of a person. I got a theory. You sure you wanna hear it? Alright, here it goes. Maybe visitors ain't the dead. Maybe their thoughts, the ones we don't bury. Fears, regrets, feelings you never let go. They pile up, and when it's too quiet in the dirt, they crawl out. Not looking for flesh, looking for attention. The more you're scared, the closer they get, because you remember them. And anything remembered wants to be alive. And let me say this, I love this. Oh my god, I love this so much. Call me biased, and I might be, but I think this is just the perfect depiction of visitors. It's the description we were looking for. The visitors are the dead, yes, but more than the dead, they are the unfulfilled feelings of the living. This also fits perfectly with the symbolism of the ringing of the funeral bells in opposition with the silence. Fears, regrets, feelings you never let go. They pile up like walks, an infernal nest where the visitors thrive. That's what they are. Since we brought up the walks again, what about the insects that live in the ear of visitors? I think they are agents of death. That is, she uses the bugs to contact visitors and tell them what to do. That is their function. And that's how they complete the visitors. With this, we have a full picture of what the visitors are. They are the feelings and regrets that the dead couldn't let go of. They rise to be remembered, and when those regrets pile up, they form a web of walks where the insects of death can thrive and communicate their wishes. I mean, technically, the visitors are actually the insects, and the undead are just reanimated memories, but let's not get too wrapped up in details, okay? Death wants the visitors to inherit the world from the humans and guide the humans to her domain. Those who die in peace, those who depart without any attachment to this life, don't rise to become visitors, as they are reunited with death. This is huge, but we are not done. There is one more guest at our house that we need to investigate, the Huntsman. He used to live in the wilds all by himself. That's when he had an encounter with the Pale Visitor and decided to look for a place more crowded. If we ask how he survived an encounter with the Pale Visitor, he tells a story. He was alone in his cabin when a man showed up at his door desperate and begging to be let in. The Huntsman describes the man as pale and shaken up, like he's seen death itself. We don't know what he saw, but from the description I'm going to say he saw it. The Huntsman refused to put himself at risk by helping the man and threatened to shoot him with the rifle. That was when the man ran. He thought it was the last he would saw him, but one day when he returned from grabbing firewood, His rifle was gone. The huntsman searched the entire place, but no sign of it. That's when he saw in the window the same man from before, holding it. But he was changed. Taller, sagged skin, and shirtless. He snapped the gun in half in front of the huntsman and stared at him. Both of them didn't move until the dawn broke and the pale visitor vanished. So now we have another piece of the puzzle. We know the origins of the pale visitor, but more than that, his motivations. I want to propose a theory here based off on everything we know so far. Have you ever wondered why the pale visitor only kills you if you are alone? He is clearly strong enough to break in anytime, after all. This is ending 6, and the first ending we will see. The pale visitor invades our home, if we are alone or if we tell him we are alone. So what I want to propose is, what if the pale visitor kills those who stay alone inside is because of what happened to him? Think that way. If visitors are the feelings of the dead, the fact that the huntsman refused to help him bred a deep resentment for those who refused to help others, who refused to let guests in. When he was reanimated as a visitor, this grudge manifested in his behavior. I have another interesting theory, though they are not mutually exclusive, mind you, that the reason why the visitor kills people who remain alone is because it's convenient for death. If her plan is to have visitors take over humanity, instructing one of her servants to kill those who don't let potential visitors in their homes is an effective way of achieving her goal. I believe both theories, that the pale visitor is both doing it out of a grudge and doing what death says, but I won't impose anything on you. You may decide for yourself what to believe in. Before we go to sleep, we remember what the prophet says. There's something underground. We start digging a hole under our house, but we can't finish in just one day. We get our fingers dirty in the process. By the way, have you ever wondered if we are a visitor ourselves? We are very close to answer that question. In the first window, we see that the group that was staying in the neighbor's house is dead. Hungry dogs are eating their remains. Based on the information we can gather, we can assume that the vigilante did this. In the second window, we see cultists peeling firewood for a ritual. In the final window, we see the vigilante walking through the streets. Apparently, he plans on burning the whole village. The first guest of the night is the Mushroom Gramps once again. It seems that the festival is still going to happen. He says we have no choice but to go to the Mushroom Land. While the cutscene plays, I'm going to take the time to explain to you what is this mushroom nonsense about. Well, it's actually quite straightforward, surprisingly. It's about a nuclear holocaust. Let's gather the evidence, shall we? Well, first and foremost, nuclear explosions are famously known for having a mushroom-like shape, and there is a massive shroom forming inside the city, as you will see in just a minute. That's not all though. Trioscas posted on their X official account a teaser for the full release of No Not Human with this image. This is a reference to the movie Dead Man's Letters, which is a story about a post-nuclear world, and the quotation for the post is, "The end of the world as we know it." This pretty much settles it, right? I usually like building up the evidence before revealing the big one that settles the debate, but this time I'm doing the opposite just because I don't want any confusion about this ending. So since we know what the ending is about, let's break it down, shall we? Well, the Mushroom Man is likely someone with a deep understanding of nuclear weapons and a potential crisis. I believe he might be a scientist of sorts. Everything from this ending is a metaphor. The mushrooms represent nuclear bombs, but also nuclear energy. The apple is supposed to represent the fruit of knowledge, and eating it with the mushroom is an attempt to reconcile dangerous technology with responsibility. The clock is supposed to represent the Doomsday Clock, which is a symbolic clock that represents how close humanity is to a global catastrophe caused by man-made threats. It is said that when the clock hits midnight, it will be the end of the world. So I think the things we see in this ending are a result of a mushroom-induced hallucination. But why a nuclear catastrophe happens? Well, it happens in the city, so we can assume that it was the authorities' way of dealing with what was happening there. which, as we know, is it. The it. This is also a good opportunity to talk about another big theory that is going on about how visitors are linked to a mushroom-related bacterium that takes over the brain of the host, much like the fungus that turned ants into zombies. Yes, that's a real thing, you can check it out. Well, there is an official FEMA transmission saying that visitors are the result of an unknown biological agent, but really? I don't see how fungus makes someone 1v6 a squad of heavily armed soldiers. I think FEMA was just trying to make it seem like they have the situation under control. There's also another theory that the mycelium represents another entity, just like death. But again, really? As we have seen, the mushrooms are more like metaphors than a literal thing. And I don't subscribe to any of it, so I won't push it here. It's up to you to decide what to believe in any case. I don't claim to hold over the truth. My approach is about giving you guys as much information as I can so you can come up with your own ideas before telling you what I think is the truth. I trust my audience, and I know you guys are smart. There's no need for me to spoon feed you guys the answer. That's why I decided to make the video this way, in case you're wondering. Even if it takes more time, we are building knowledge little by little until we are all in the same page. Sure, I'm still the one picking the dialogues and the NPCs I think are the most relevant, but that's why I'm mentioning other theories I've seen going around, to make up for that by sharing different perspectives. Well, since I'm already rambling, why don't you guys hit the subscribe button if you want more video theories with this approach? Your support means a lot and helps the channel grow. Anyways, let's move on, we still have more guests left. The second guest of the night is the Vigilante once again. We learned that he's looking for our neighbor. The truth is that this guy is actually the neighbor's brother. Now, there's one noteworthy request he makes to us. We need to show a sign we are not a visitor. Just one clean sign of not being visitor is all he asks for. Now, I haven't told you guys about it yet, but we can check for signs of being visitor in the mirror of the bathroom. Save but one. We can't take pictures of ourselves. Since we dug the dirt, our fingers are dirty. Our teeth are white, so we're not showing them. Our armpits are also dirty. We can show our eyes or ears. Let's just go with ears just to be safe. Right, ears are not an official visitor sign. I know that, of course. I did this on purpose. Failing the inspection with the Vigilante will trigger ending 10. You hear a madman behind the door, spitting furious words with raw aggression. You can only wait, hoping nothing will happen. The haze of rage in the eyes of an armed man is more terrifying than any visitor. You hear his shallow wheezing.
Bastard. He got me.
And how many has he slaughtered? How many has he killed?
Thought he'd drag it out since I didn't go down easy.
He's gone quiet.
But what about
You
the
should probably
the
check.
others?
He's actually...
Because of scum like you, so many are dead. People like you killed my friend. And people like you will never let anybody live in peace. What? You think no one will fight back? These minds, damned by insanity. And now I've lost everything. But you'll still have something left to lose. I'll crush you.
I'll drive you deep into the ground. I'll drown
Everything.
in your blood. Every bastard with a weapon in their hands dies today. Every
Last.
one. So let's analyze what just happened here. The protagonist and the Vigilante traded gunshots. The Vigilante clearly died, and the protagonist was heavily wounded. Remember when I asked you if you ever wondered if the protagonist is a visitor? Well, in ending 10, he becomes one. let's investigate the evidence. First, there's the wound. A wound like that, with no hospitals available, is lethal. There is zero chance the protagonist survives a shot like that. So how come we see him alive? The only plausible explanation is that he died and has been reanimated as a visitor. Well, that and that he could be hallucinating before dying. There's more evidence to him become a visitor. First, let's establish what visitors are from what we have discussed. They are the lingering feelings of the dead who come back to life in search of fulfillment. Just like we theorize the pale visitor kills those who stay alone because he was denied entry, the fury of the protagonist from being killed by a man killing anyone who shows a sign of a visitor could also turn him into a powerful visitor. Just pay attention to his words and his anger, saying anyone with a gun in hand will die, and that he will drag them to the ground. This last part may be a reference to what the cultist said about the sun, that the reason it is getting hotter is to drive people underground, which is closer to the domain of death. Makes me think that the vigilante might be a visitor himself too. If this is all true, then the screamers, remember them? The creepy ghosts that might show up when you shoot visitor. They might be those lingering feelings and regrets flowing out of the bodies once they are released. Anyway, since we become a visitor in this ending, it is safe to say we weren't one before. Remember when I said we couldn't check on our photo in the mirror? We can take one to show the vigilante. Pretty weird, right? The background is completely dark, we are completely white, and there's a weird fog in our head. Anyways, as promised, this is night 10, and we have completely solved the mystery of the visitors. But we still have guests left tonight. The third guest of the night is the FEMA officer. He came to take 2 more people with him for inspection. And after him is the cult leader who came to take back his followers. He is pleased with us because we kept them alive, and says death might offer a safe place for us. That's everyone for tonight. Let's head back and sleep. The news today aren't anything special. There's something going on about the cultists preparing a ritual involving open flames, and the sun keeps getting hotter with no signs of stopping. There's a new sign of visitor, fungal growth under the underarm area. Now, this is once again used as an evidence to visitors being the result of a fungus-related disease, but could just be a result of people not showering properly. Well, to not discredit the mushroom theory completely, you may choose to believe that the fungus is part of the way death operates, much like insects that enter ears with wax. If I had to pick something to believe personally, I'd say I think the fungal growth is the result of the heat, with people not showering properly, and that's it. The radio has a failing signal, but we can try to decipher what is missing to get the following message. They shouldn't have burned the bodies, it roused it. If they'd left the remains, it wouldn't have come. Right, so let's recap what we know. There's a mysterious creature referred to just as it that attacked the quarantine zones and has been causing havoc in the city, and is also out of control. In a different ending, the authorities decide to blast the place to get rid of it, leading to an eventual nuclear apocalypse. It eats charred bodies and is attracted by them. Because FEMA started burning the bodies instead of burying them, they unleashed it. The nature of it is unclear, but we know death has a darker and vengeful side for those who slander her name. I will reiterate and say this is the nature of it. Burned bodies can't become visitors, which is the opposite of what death wants. So death sent it to punish the sinners. That's my take at least. We don't have info to say anything for sure. We don't have anyone new for today, so let's dig a bit more of the basement and head back to the bed. In the first window, we see the dogs who were eating are now running from something. We don't know what it is. In the second window, we see that the cultists tied themselves to the pyres, ready to sacrifice themselves. In the third window, we see houses burning, and we know the vigilante is behind this. Right, so the first guest of the night is Cold Guy. Realistically, he'd show up way earlier in the run, but I decided to include him just now. He says he feels very cold, which is very weird considering the sun is, exploding, but we let him in nonetheless. The second guest tonight is the Pale Visitor. He says he has been told this is our last chat, which means the trials of death are coming to an end. From now on, we don't have to worry about being alone at home. The third guest tonight is the cult leader. He has interesting remarks. Death no longer speaks to him, but her approach is nigh. We are all tired of living, but scared of what comes next. The afterlife is a hollow concept created by religions, so is reincarnation, but death herself can spare us from the void. As a gift from keeping the cultists safe, he offers us an option to join their rite and march towards death with them. Accepting the invitation is our requirement to reach Ending 4. He says a few interesting things. We give names to the dead, so they know their deaths weren't in vain. They, the dead, will be taken just like the rest. And that's how they shrouded Olum. That is his name now. Is he perhaps talking about it? It's hard to say. I tried to look in the original Russian text for clues, but no dice this time around. In any case, we join the cultists in their ritual to summon death, and essentially that is the ending. What exactly happens is a little confusing, but we learn more about death as a deity, so I'll do my best to explain what I think it is. According to the text of this ending, death is an old deity that supposedly grants peace and preserves the memory of humans. Well, I say humans, but could be that death does the same for any living creature. She's coming to Earth to grant humanity the peace it long waited for. The knowledge of death as not a sinister being used to be known, but a great extinction erased this knowledge as well as many lives. We don't know what this great extinction is, and real-life Earth went through 5 great extinction events, so it's hard to say which one. This opens a branch for a bunch of different theories about ancient civilizations that could have preceded humanity, but we can't possibly know the details with just that. In any case, we partake in the ancient ritual to summon death, so she can fulfill her promise of granting peace to humanity by sacrificing ourselves to her. What exactly means to grant peace to humanity and to preserve our memory is a mystery. I mean, it's a proper representation of death, right? Who knows what actually happens after we die? Well, luckily for us, we'll know more about what that is in the context of this game later in this video. There is a lot I could say about the implications of this ending now, but we aren't done with the story of the game yet, so let's head back to before we accepted the invitation and see who else is coming tonight. The fourth guest of the night is Big Mama. Yes, she's a visitor and she's running from Fema, but we'll let her in this time. She was the last guest for tonight, so let's head back to our bedroom. More news about the bad weather and rapid eye movement has been identified as a sign of visitors. The more signs we get, the more unreliable they become. Let's just listen to the radio and see what it gets us. Another cut message, but we can try to fit the remaining pieces to get what it's saying. Dispatch to all FEMA units. New directive. Code 451 is replaced with Code 955. Do not burn the bodies. Apply lime instead. Repeat. Code 451 is cancelled. Burning remains has failed to contain the threat posed by the subject. Right, as we know it, it is attracted by burnt bodies, so burning them was actually making it stronger. Applying lime to bodies is a way of delaying putrefaction, so it should stop them from spreading diseases. And I also think that's what happens in the cultist ending. If you pay attention, there's a liquid spreading from the wrapped corpse, which I think is a way of preserving the bodies for death when she comes. Okay, new residents. First, there's Cold Guy. He is struggling with the cold and has something he wants to share with us, but when he does, this event will play and kill everyone in the room, including visitors. Well, except for us and the Cold Guy. This apparently has happened before, but it's not something he does on purpose. We can be understanding, and instead of outright killing him, we can kick him out. But what even is that thing in his belly? Well, reminds me a lot of the mark of death we saw previously on Ending 4. We know visitors are agents of death, so The code guy was probably blessed, with her sigil. I don't know, I feel sorry for the guy. He's always a visitor, but he's clueless to what is going on. Anyway, let's move on to the next character. We have Big Mama to talk with. She doesn't try to hide the fact that she's a visitor, and according to her, her family is being held hostage by Fema, but she knows it won't stop them for long. She threatened us saying this place is a nice stay for her family, and we end up with no choice but to kill her. She's one of the most hostile type of visitors, an interesting contrast to Code Guy. We can dig the ground one last time and finally reveal there's a whole tunnel under our basement. If we explore it, we find a miner looking down a huge hole. We ask him what the hell he's doing under our house, and he says he started digging to find shelter from the heat. The cultist did say that the sun's heat was to get humans underground after all, but the tunnel system wasn't his, it was already here. He thinks that maybe visitors are using those to move around, but he hasn't seen any yet. More interesting than the tunnels is the hole. The miner says that he heard voices coming from it, and that one of his friends went down just to never come back up. We are told to stay clear from that hole, and that's what we do for now. Alright, it's about time we head back to bed and wait for the night, so let's just do that. Something unusual happens. We find ourselves in a strange dream. We are smaller and walk around the house opening doors. Once all doors are open, we return to our bedroom and the screen blackens. That's when we get jump scared by screamers. At night, all the doors around the house, save for the bedroom door and the entrance one, are knocked down. When we go back to sleep after having checked every room, we get a prompt saying that no one's left. The protagonist suspects it might have been the dream. It's unclear what triggers the dream, however. Some think it might happen when you have too many visitors in your house, and a visitor has killed at least 2 people in your house, or when you have a visitor for way too long. So, what is this all about? Well, that's a tricky one. Like many other things in this game, we don't have definite answers or clues pointing to any direction. Many people interpret this sequence as being the sign that the protagonist is a visitor, and fair enough, that's a valid interpretation. The protagonist gets exposed long enough to visitors that he becomes one and starts murdering everyone. If being a visitor is the result of a virus or a transmissive thing. I don't think it's that, though. First off, we were shown how people become visitors. They have to die first. And remember the little girl's dialogue about her father saying that they hit him but he got up? Assuming that's true, that's another instance of someone turning into a visitor after dying, just like it happened to the protagonist in Ending 10. Second, visitors don't kill other visitors. They don't do that in gameplay, and there isn't any mentioning of that happening. We know they all work for death, so it would be weird if they did that. The fact that we can die to visitors is evidence enough to us not being one. And in this dream sequence, the protagonist kills everyone, human and visitor. Except for Napier Dish, my son. So what is this dream, Mr. Axolotl? Is that what you're wondering? If we knew what triggers this event exactly, it would be easier to guess. Instead of sticking with just one explanation, I'm going to round shotgun a bunch of theories I have and I'll let you choose your favorite. Hello everyone, this is Future Shadow doing intermission here before Present Shadow can continue. While editing this video, and I mean right now as I stopped editing to record this, I found what I think is the true answer to what the dream sequence is. However, I found it by data mining the game files, which I see as a bit unfair to do. But I don't plan on hiding it, and I'm going to reveal it in full later on this video, for those curious about the answer. For now, I will let Present Shadow give his theories of what that is, using only the information available by playing the game, before giving you guys the true answer. Alright, let's continue the video. See you soon. So, number 1. The influence of the visitors affects the protagonist, which makes him get into a visitor-like state. This could make sense if you believe the visitors have a disease-like aspect to their transformation, either by a virus or a fungus bacterium. Number 2, Death senses we are in danger and take control of us. It is pretty clear Death is taking interest in the protagonist, so maybe she sensed that there's too many of her servants in our house. So she forces us to kill them all so we can be safe and fulfill our greater mission. Number 3, the protagonist has a mental condition. He could have an alter ego, perhaps. Maybe he's secretly a sociopath. Maybe he has some sort of dissociation and murderous tendencies we aren't aware of. In any case, this line of theory suggests that whatever happened in the dream is a result of the protagonist not being in the proper state of mind. Maybe the dream is him reliving a memory. He's shorter, after all. I wish I could hit the nail on the head with this one and say this is a memory for sure, but we have a photograph of his wife on the ground, which he couldn't have married at the time. In any case, pick your poison. Perhaps the truth is some sort of combination of the theories. I like to think the bugs had something to do with it, like getting into the ear of the protagonist while he sleeps and forcing him to do this. But getting into further speculation now is going to just drag us. We don't have anything confirmed, so let's move on. Right, we are back to night 12. In the first window, we see a shapeless sludge composed of what the burned bodies were before. We wonder if something melted the flesh and the bones before swallowing the remains. In the second window, we see it. So this was it the whole time. You can even get an achievement when you see it for the first time, which states, "Witness horrors beyond your comprehension just outside your window." So it looks like a pure black creature that tracks itself with his arms. There is also a special document given for YouTubers, which, by the way, I didn't get. I didn't know you could apply for getting free games when you're in the YouTube business. Well, I guess you live and learn. In any case, in the profile of the blinded man, it says he saw glimpses of the body eater, and it also states that the body eater is a visitor. This thing is a visitor. Got it. It's not another entity, it's not antagonizing death, it's not another aspect of death. It is a special visitor that eats bird bodies. I mean, Big Mama mentions eating bodies herself, and there is a post on Trioscas X of a visitor eating a body in Italy. Doesn't look like the body eater, even though it's referred to as it in caps. So I say it's not the it body eater. But who knows, I could be wrong on that one. Also, in the second window, we see the remains of the cultists that burned themselves with the heat of the sun yesterday. The protagonist states, faces frozen in terror and agony, as if they saw something horrible before dying. The cult leader said he can't hear death anymore, so maybe this burning ritual thing wasn't what she wanted and he made a mistake. In the cultist ending, we don't really burn our bodies. Our bodies just kinda melt. Or then again, this is just the lime that we apply to our bodies that I mentioned before. I know it's a crazy theory, but could explain what happened here. And I'll be honest, I kinda like it too. Well, that was all for the second window. In the third window, we see that our house is the only one left. The vigilante burned them all. We also see the aurora borealis above the burning buildings. The first visitor of the night is the vigilante. This is our final confrontation with him. We already got his ending, and I know what happens if we fail, so we won't let it happen again. This time we are showing him our eyes. Our second guest is the prophet, looking worse than ever. His vision is fading, and he laments that death might have forsaken him. He came to tell us one final advice: jump. He's afraid of what happens to him next. He asks us to read his fortune one more time, thinking it might help ease his conscience. Now, just like we did last time, let's break down each page again. The 10th page says, "Our youth screamed out like the Pyres of Rouen." This is a reference to the lyrics of a song, and Pyres of Rouen referred to the execution of Joan of Arc being burned at the stake. The lyrics of the song talk about a youth that has burned and lost its hope. It talks about the decline of morals and death of ideals. Pretty clear it's talking about how much the paranoia and fear of death has made people lose touch with their own humanity. The greatest examples being the Vigilante and Fema. The middle of page 200 says, "One chance between two worlds. Fire, walk with me." This is a reference to the series Twin Peaks, and it's basically part of a chant which opens a doorway to the spiritual realm. I think this is a reference to death as a supernatural entity coming to our world. And finally, somewhere towards the end, we've been on the train to nowhere for the longest time, but the road roars on beneath its wheels. This is another reference to the lyrics of a song. It goes, "We've been on a train to nowhere for the longest time, but the road roars on beneath its wheels. Spare me, for God's sake, from this feeling we call anxiety." It represents the point of the game we are right now, near the end, and we are indeed pretty anxious of what is to come. The clip of the song also shows a guy stuck on what seems to be a death loop. He dies, wake up like it was a dream, and dies again. I feel like this could be an indication that the protagonist is on a death loop, but I couldn't find other evidence for that, so I'm not going to argue for it. With that, the prophet leaves happy or disappointed depending on what we choose. This is the last time we see him. Speaking of fear, paranoia, and anxiety, this is a good moment to bring up another ending of the game, ending 7. No, I'm not a murderer. This ending is triggered after killing a large number of humans by shooting them with a gun. After that, the prophet will show up one night and tell us that we did something irreversible. In our fear of death, we only brought it closer. Then the cutscene plays of the protagonist so terrified of death, he tries to take his own life. But visitors start crawling from the basement, confirming that they indeed moved through the tunnels. They stop the protagonist, beat him, and kick him out of his own house, leaving him to burn under the sun, which now we know is not the proper way death wants people to die. So this becomes some sort of punishment for us for failing to control our fear. We are not letting anyone else in tonight. This is it. We head back to bed and sleep. In the morning news, we learned that FEMA arrested the majority of government officials because they were identified as visitors. With this, FEMA takes over the administration and takes the role of interim government. This was likely their goal from the start. In addition, fugitives broke from the city's lockdown. We are advised to barricade our windows and lock our doors. The final radio message also comes with bits cut, but we can try to decipher it and get the following message. This is 18-8. We couldn't contain it. The subject has left the city perimeter. Immediate backup required. We need backup now. We couldn't contain the subject alone. Yeah, the whole time the lockdown was to keep the body eater from leaving the city. In the mushroom ending, the officials decided to nuke the place down, but in this timeline, it escaped. This is the last chance we have to jump down the hole and fulfill Death's expectations for us. But before showing you that ending, I want to quickly go through 3 endings first. Let's start with ending 5. In this ending, the FEMA officer comes to our house and invites us to join them. To trigger this event, you need to show interest in their operations and call their number multiple times. As a FEMA agent, we are treated as expendable. We also wonder how it's strange for them to hire people on the spot. You don't know what happens to your home or to the people that live with you, and we only regret not bringing that poster with us. Now let's review endings 2 and 3. These are the default endings of the game that trigger if we make it to day 13 alive and sleep. On day 14, we are going to barricade our doors and lock ourselves in our basement. Ending 2 and 3 are connected because they are variants of each other. If we have a visitor among us by the time we lock ourselves in our basement, we are killed by them. They quite wait for us to get tired before striking. In ending 2, there are no visitors with us, so we wait until the end of the cataclysm. After 2 months, we catch a transmission. Solar activity is fading, and in a couple of days, it will be safe to go outside. We feel disappointed? Yeah, after what happened, the scars won't heal so easily. Who knows if next summer this will happen again. But we might still have at least a few decades ahead of us. And now it's time for us to explore what is, in my opinion, the major ending of this game. We gotta jump in the hole. Goodbye, my son. I will miss you. After walking through the tunnels, we find a way to the miner and the hole. We can talk with him before jumping, and he'll say that he kinda wants to know what's going down there, but someone has to stay behind to pull the rope so his friend can get back up. I'm 19% sure this guy is a reference to something I'm not aware of. If you know what it is, please comment down below. The miner is constantly speaking how it's getting harder for him to hear, and that maybe it has something to do with the hums coming from the hole. Maybe this is about the walks. Well, it's pointless to ask those questions now. Our fate awaits in front of us. We take a deep breath and...
If only those frozen hands could love me. Could you ever manage that? Congratulations! You emerge into an odd space. A hallway stretches before you with a desk at the end.
You... what?
The multitudes who fear me could build a grand city, but you need not to be afraid. Fear does not exist here. How long have you longed to meet me? I can sense it. All is well now.
What now?
A long eternity awaits. How wonderful it is that all suffering has come to an end. You will learn what you sought to know. But you won't find the answers you seek.
What do I do now? Is there nothing else?
Of course, this tiny kingdom has swallowed so much sleep. Where do you want to go? To those whose eyes carved marks into your heart? No, you don't want to see them. You're tired. I know where you need to go. To where motive mirrors are plentiful set to lend a sense of abundance. That's what you wanted, isn't it? Where you were meant to be. Yet these short roads will soon stretch strangely wide, long, dusty, and strewn with compromises. Enjoy.
I'm sure there still might be some questions you want the answers for. What exactly happened here, right? Well, we met Tef. That Aurora Borealis we saw through the windows many times was her, after all. To help clear things of what happens in this ending, there is something said by Death that can help. Where do you want to go? To those whose eyes carve marks into your heart? No, you don't want to see them. You're tired. I know where you need to go. She is basically asking us where do we want to go, and she proceeds to send us there. Our protagonist doesn't want to go to those whose eyes carved marks into his heart. That is, his deceased family. Because, for one reason or another, this is just too much of a burden for him. So Death sends him to his own afterlife, one he dreamed with for so long. Loneliness and isolation, a place he can find quiet and peace. But do we die after enjoying our time here? Well, to answer that, Death does say, yet these short roads will soon stretch strangely wide, long, dusty, and strewn with compromises. So there might be more after this. Eternal or not, there's still more after life. I want to recapitulate everything that happens in the story one last time so we're all in the same page. After that, I want to talk about the themes of No Not a Human and also about one last ending we are still missing. So, based on everything we have seen, here's my interpretation of the story of No Not a Human. Our protagonist lives an hermit life and has developed an antisocial personality, perhaps due to growing up in a crowded home, an abusive family, or a combination of both. One summer, the sun begins to get too hot to go outside during the day, and the regrets of the dad come back to life, looking for attention. This is all part of the plan of a higher deity, Death. She watched over the constant struggles of mankind and felt compelled to help us the only way she can, by granting rest. And so her plan is to draw humans closer to her realm in the underground, and let those regrets of the dead inherit the surface of the world. Humans fear death, and so they resisted her message. Fear led to paranoia, and paranoia turned humans into monsters. Soon, people began burning bodies, which prevented them from meeting with death. Furious, she unleashed a powerful visitor to punish the sinners, and this is the Body Eater, a missionary of her fury. She saw the protagonist and developed an interest in him, which made her send many of her servants in our way to guide our path. Eventually, the Body Eater escapes the containment of the city, and the fate of the world becomes uncertain. The protagonist visits death in her realm and dies himself, but was granted rest in an afterlife. This is what death wanted for all of humanity all along. This is the gist of it. So now that we know what is the story of the game, let's talk about its themes a bit, shall we? I don't know the best way to say this, but I also don't want my message to get twisted, so it might get wordy now. Look, I see the point of the game. We shouldn't shun death. We shouldn't fear it so much it cripples our life. We shouldn't let our fear of death rob us of our hearts, of our humanity. And we don't know what death feels like. And that's the fear, right? Of the unknown. No Not a Human tries to give a different perspective on what death is. And I think they did a great job. It's scary, incomprehensible, but also part of life. It gives rest to the weary, it puts everyone on the same level and makes everyone equal before it. It hints something very important that we as a species are so quick to forget. Fear leads to hate, and hate will destroy us. At the end of the day, No Not a Human is about that. It's a warning about that. A reminder, if you will. On a quick note, the game mentions multiple media, but I'm baffled it didn't mention Don't Fear the Reaper once. That's why it did, at the very beginning, in fact. I always pick a song I think will fit with the rest of the video at the start. Still, I have something to say now which I can't really let go. I am and will always be in favor of life, even if when trying to survive results in us making mistakes along the way. I don't agree with death's plan for mankind, not at all. I also know that thinking too much about the topic is dangerous, especially for those struggling with mental health. If you are, I sincerely wish you well. I don't know what it is that you're going through, or what you gotta do to fight it, but as the old poem says, do not go gentle into that good night. The message of the game, at least in my opinion, applies only for those not struggling with mental health, and I think it gets dangerously too comfy with the idea of, well, unaliving. It's a message for the anxious, not the depressed. At the same time, I think the game did a great job at portraying its message, at saying what it wanted to say, even if I wish they approach it more carefully. I guess you can have your cake and eat it too. Well, sorry for getting heavy right at the end, and it's not really my style to make somber videos, even when talking about somber games. I'd rather focus on what's interesting about the findings of the lore, but I hope you can take what is best from it. Wouldn't feel right to at least acknowledge what is going on. Alright, this game is sad and weird. We got sad enough. Let's get weird. There's one last ending I left for last because I frankly don't know what to make of it. To trigger this event, you need to get this character in your playthrough. She acts very seductively and tries to give the protagonist comfort with her words. Well, I guess, and with her body too. She can be either human or a visitor, strangely, but ultimately it doesn't change the story. Throughout the nights, we find her body pregnant and getting each time more twisted. If we confront her about it during daytime, she will simply dodge the question. Then, one day, she will burst, literally, on our bed to top it off. Lovely. And around the house, we will be able to find a baby hiding. First behind the curtains, then on top of the ceiling fan, and finally under the bathtub. During the night, we'll have this cutscene play. First, we see a white fog from where the cultists come from. They take the baby on their hands and start yanking it in opposite directions. We shoot, and suddenly a figure appears. A prophet woman in white, and her followers. These people don't look like cultists of death. They say that the child would have led them to a kingdom of horror, but the sacrifice of the protagonist will save us all. The implications being that we are going to be crucified. Okay, like, what even to make of this? Even after everything we've learned, this ending still remains a big question mark to me. There are clear references to the Bible here. Perhaps the baby is the Antichrist and the seductive woman is Babylon the Great. The baby was held by cultists of death, and the group who showed up dressed distinctively from them, with angel wings and all. Perhaps the death of the protagonist, who was chosen by death, will stop her plans? I don't know. We know Trioska's universe is connected, possibly. You wanna bet this is going to be the canon ending of No Not a Human and a future game will take on from this? Well, we would at least get some answers then. In any case, these were all the endings of No Not a Human. Alright, we have explored and explained all the endings. We have fully covered the entire story of the game, as well as uncovered some of the major secrets. The nature of the visitors, what is the entity known as death, what was the transmission about the bugs about, the prophet's prophecies, and many more. The only big mystery remaining is the truth about the dream sequence I promised to tell you guys. So instead of telling you what it is, let me tell you how I found it. For the making of this video, I've been using a program that lets me search and extract files of games made with Unity, No Not a Human obviously being one of them. I used it primarily to get the text of the game, and that's how I managed to read every single line of dialogue in this game without playing it a billion times. I don't think I said this, but yeah, I have actually read every single text in this game, and that's also how I got different translations. I also used the program to get the soundtrack and use it for editing, and as you can see, we have every sound in the game here. When replaying the dream sequence, I noticed a strange sound that played when I walked. My first idea was that it could be an encrypted message, so I tried reversing it, changing the pitch, and eventually was going to try and see if it used something called steganography that allows people to hide images in audio. But to throw the audio into a spectrogram viewer, I had to get it, and so I started digging the audio files to look for it, and I found Sans? Well, putting Sans aside, I found the files for the strange audio in the dream sequence, and their names are char_body_eater_idol and char_body_eater_move. So, if these names mean anything, it means that in the dream sequence we are playing as the body eater. So a few questions remain, such as why is it inside our house? Why it kills everyone, including visitors? And since what triggers the event has something to do with multiple people dying to visitors, my guess is that death sent it to protect us. But what do you guys think? Leave your theories in the comments. Okay, and now it's time to talk about the update. I haven't had much time to play it, but I know they released a bunch of new randomized characters, a new dream, and a new ending. I'll let the dream play on the screen right now, and I believe it triggers after you eat the mushroom in the basement. It doesn't add much to what we know, I think. which honestly, I was desperately hoping to be the case because otherwise I would have to change like 1/3 of the script. But we good. The dream's just us walking a tunnel until we wake up. Next is the new ending. This ending is the new ending 4, which makes the way I was referring to the endings by the numbers outdated, but never mind that now. This ending occurs when you make day 14 alone instead of having people with you. It's another variant of endings 2 and 3. Basically, the protagonist has a lot of time to be alone with his thoughts. He reflects on his anger, his hatred for his dad, his sorrow for disappointing his wife. It is also implied through his monologue that his father pushed his mother to the edge, which made her take her own life. And this is one of the reasons the protagonist hates his dad so much. As the protagonist wallows in regret, we see the scream shake and get more intense. And I think this is further evidence to our theory that visitors are those lingering feelings come back to life. But the walls of the house crumble, and it appears that the protagonist recovers his sanity. This house used to suffocate him, but now it's dust, gone. He is free, though he's stuck under the rubble. But I think this ending also implies that he escapes through the tunnel under his basement. Honestly, a really cool ending, and it's up there with my favorites. I thought the game was going to punish players who decided to stay alone, but this is a good surprise. Well, and now we are done with everything for real. I hope I achieved what I promised you guys, and now you have an understanding of the story. At least of the most important parts. Like you guys have seen for yourselves, many things here don't have definite answers, and mine is just one of many interpretations. Ultimately, it's up to you to decide what to believe. But even if you disagree with anything, I hope it was still useful as a different perspective. I would love to read your own theories, especially to the most uncertain parts of the game, so I encourage you to comment them down below. Like I told you guys, I haven't had much time to play around with the update, so I don't know if there's any new secret interesting and worth mentioning, but I'll keep an eye out for anything, and I'll be sure to post about it on my X, so if you want to see that, I encourage you to follow. The link is in the description. And this is the ending of the No Another Human video. Sorry for the long wait, by the way, but I hope it was worth it. Alright, that's it for now. See you all next time.